Okay, so after the fun of the last few minutes of spilling terps all over my table, there's our finished product. Very rough, but not a real issue. Once I put the sealer on that, I've got some flat clear somewhere I said I'd probably never use because according to Tamina it causes cancer. But you know, I'm pretty old anyway, so yeah, so I'll seal that. Now these things, they're just normal screws, and I'm going to use these from my hardware store to cover them up. They just have a little insert on the inside. You just put them on top of the screw and you push them in. So before I do that, I'll paint them up and weather them as such. And there's 2 on that side and I think 3 on this side here. One of them's holding in the buttstock. They're called, if you want to know, press-in screw caps, white plastic, by Taskmaster. And this pack of 100 cost me like $2.70. I must admit it was a little bit hard to push it in that, but it does go in. But what I'm planning to do is when I do put them in, I might even have to shave a bit down off them, is I'm going to put just a little smear of Celastic in the hole. So if I ever need to pull the gun apart, I can just rip those off. You know, I don't want to glue them in, but the Celastic will hold them fine. Yeah, that looks a lot better when they cover up. Because I don't have a working printer at the moment, I took a photo of the clip art on my Magic Phone talking machine thing, and as you can see I've left a couple of things out, like the colour in the eyes. So I'm just going to do that, see if I can work that out fairly quickly. I've even noticed there's a huge amount of lower eye there I've missed on that one. Go. So when that's dry, that will become red. So the procedure now is to wait for this side to dry and touch up that black that I've gone over there and put a black outline around that globe, the ball, the eyeball, and then the red there and the black dot on the other eye. The discrepancy between the teeth on the actual art and the same art I took through into the plotter is that the plotter tends to simplify things something chronic. So I'm going to try and solve this problem and probably do it extremely poorly. Okay guys, back again. I may have worked out how to do this so you can see as well. Who knows. So got my red, just going to paint this eye in. So that's my red done. Next is finishing everything off with the black. I think I'm going to have to come back and touch up with the white just a bit more, but at a long distance glance, like a foot or so, that's pretty cool. Got a black mark there I've got to get rid of. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with that. Done for now. I will see you at the next step, guys, as soon as I work out what the next step is. Just putting these plugs in. First grab a plug, make sure it's in the right hole, which is good enough. Pull it back out with the blue tack. And I've got something called Ideal Seal. And what I'm going to do, I'll try and show you, is just put a little bit around the base. That's basically all I need, because it's quite a friction fit. And it's black, so if I mess it up on the black, at least it's not going to show very much. There we go, done. I'll go and find these safeties and more than likely paint them red. I just had to move the scope forward because it was too far back. It was causing me to hunch my shoulders, and because of that I had lots of holes exposed from where I put the different scope mounts on. So easiest way to make them go away, put a screw in them. Some of them are actually very, very short because the flywheels are behind them, so that's a pretty short screw, but it still holds. So yeah, and just drill at 90 degrees to the surface, which wasn't easy, but it got done. You hide a hole with a screw that looks like it's holding something on the inside. Now on the other side I got a big mess because I got a great big hole, so that's the only one I'm going to have to fill with some putty and that's the only one I'm going to have to sand and paint. So just another quick idea. Right, hi guys, finally at the black wash stage, but in this case it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to try something. I quite like watching a show called Overhauling, and the famous Chip Foose has his famous oh, what do you call it, his paint fade, where he does a shadow at the bottom of the car that comes up. It just makes the panels look a bit curved. Well, watching it again today, and actually I picked up something I'd never seen before, which was he actually uses 3 different shades to build this effect up. A light, so if he's doing grey, he'd use a light grey, a mid grey and a dark grey, and these are just all eyeballs, so there's no great skill involved. So what I'm intending to do is, I actually have all these mixed up dirtying colours, like this brown from the Poxalypse build. I'm going to mix it up, and I'm going to try and do the same sort of thing he is doing, different colours. I'm going to do light grey, light brown first, and I've got that says flat black, but that's actually dark grey, and then I've got a flat black last off. Well, happy accident there. I just got some brown on it. See how quickly easy it wipes off. Oh, that's pretty good. Alright, just going to do a little bit over here. Yeah. Okay, you can see it. You stand out next to the white, but it actually isn't that much of a stain, which is what I'm looking for. I want the brown, then the grey, then the black, and the black will be the heaviest, and then on top of all that, all the smoke comes in. So I'll persevere with this, let's face it, mess. Right guys, it's about 1 rogue scourgeon after I've put the black wash on this and pretty much ruined it. So I've got to fix that, but I'm going to keep moving on. So what I've done here, this is just some old expanded foam, padding foam. Just got an old offcut, I think left over from when I made my poker table, and I've just wrapped it around there because just a bit of material around there is a little bit too thin. I want it a little bit more padded, a little bulky. So I've got this material, which I was hoping would get stained from the black, but since I haven't done the black, anyway. So I've got that, so I'm going to cut a bit, give myself a little tail, and attempt to do a tricky little tuck-in sort of thing. Like so. This stuff is pretty low density, so when it gets pressed down by the material, it'll just, you know, pretty much flatten. Now, this piece of material I've got is square, and ideally I'd need a long strip, obviously. But the way to get a long strip out of this stuff is get scissors, cut down, don't go all the way down. You cut down the line that side, cut down line that side. So you're making basically a long, flexible snake piece that's got 90-degree turns at either alternate ends, but you'll get one single long piece of material, and those folds will just contribute to the look of it, I reckon. So I'm going to do that. So this is just falling apart in my hands. I've got the feeling when I put the paint on it's just going to dissolve. Yeah, that's not very good at all. Stuff all over the place. So I'm going to have to do that again, but at least I know the theory is good, yeah. So, probably need to get a piece of... I've got some canvas outside, some very old canvas. That stuff is really tough. And it's black as well. There's an idea. This is much better. This is an old bit of canvas I've had. Been outside for years. We use it for collecting leaves, and it's pretty badly weathered on the outside. So and then we're done. I'm pretty chuffed with that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm warming up to this weathering more and more. Some smoke and soot will probably work a lot. Yeah, that does look good. Alright guys, now if you've been following the videos, you know I'm going to be entering this into a local competition. I've been put in the miscellaneous open category, which means I'm going to be up against things like, I don't know, Star Trek Enterprise bridges, miniature full-scale models of Vampirella, probably steampunk chitty bang bangs, that sort of thing. So what the judges can't do there is judge each piece against each other because they're so different. So human nature, they're going to be looking for flaws, and I have a flaw here. This join here is pretty bad, and I could sand it all down and reputty and everything, but I have to do the stencils again, the painting, the weathering. So what I've decided to do is the Hollywood trick of hanging a lantern on it. In other words, putting something on it to draw attention away from it, if that makes sense. And I've printed this little piece. I got my 3D printer working, which I'm absolutely stoked about. Just made up a quick little piece, dry brushed it with some silver, did some graphite on it, and just a couple of these black screws, and we're good to go. And other screw right there. So for 5 minutes design on the computer, and I think it took about 15 minutes to print, I've covered up a huge blemish that looks like it's been there all the time. So just another little trick. I want to make some sling straps for this thing and put a sling on it, simply because I do. And easy way to do it is keep your eyes out for somebody throwing away one of those circular trampolines when the mat rips, because it's got about 50 or 60 of these around the edge, which are brilliant for sling loops. So you've got a couple of them. Get yourself some galvanized nail strip. It's just metallic strip pre-punched with holes. Use it for putting together fences, repairing fences, and etc. And what you do, you put that through there, get it roughly lined up, bend it over, get the two sides straight, and then with your trusty hammer, hammer it. Keeping your fingers like that, you're pushing the plate down, you're holding the strip in place. Crimping it a bit more. Then you work out where it's got to go. So you've got two very nice holes there. Say you want it there, and say it has to, there's a nut or something here, so you just draw yourself a line, a curve, whatever. Snip off the waste. So what I'm going to do now is just put that in a vise, up the jaws up to there, and just crimp it together. And we've got a lovely sling top. Very easy, very straightforward. Now if you haven't got a bench grinder like I do, you know, it's just file, cut it with a coping saw and then smooth it off. You can even get saddles for plumbing. It's just basically something that looks like that. All you do is you put your loop in there, and you can put a screw in there and a screw in there, straight like that. But there's enough room in here for like a copper tube, so you can actually curve that right around. So that arm is now over there, and you've got a nice tight fit for your sling point. Back and done. So hopefully you can see this. Okay, so I've got one in the underside here. I'll put two little screws in it. And here's the other one here. And this one, I've been a bit clever. I've used the same screw hole that holds the butt in. Put that there because I was having trouble with that little button. So now all I have to do is get a sling. Okay, worked it out. Just took one of the leftover buckles, whatever you want to call it, used my Dremel, took a section out of the centre there, and what you do, just slide it over, and normally you turn it in to hide the section you're taking out, but I'm leaving it out because although it holds there, I can actually use it as an adjustment, bring it down and put it over the tail of the strap. So there we go. Looks pretty cool. Now I will model this for you, and I apologise, you're going to actually have to see me. Not a pleasant sight. So there we go. There's the strap. Works a treat. So what I've also been doing is testing different paints and stuff. Now that's the Cove. I've also taken another piece and painted it two different colours. That's just a grey undercoat, and that's what's called mangrove. And when they're dry, I'll do some weathering effects and tests on those two and work out what I want to do. Just looking at the way the strap looks, that side doesn't look as interesting as that side, so that side might be the way I have it out. The sling I've made, now the first thing I did was some of the old pieces of purse that the sling came from, I painted some different colours to see what I liked. And the first one I painted with this, the Cove, the light tan, which has dried and is fine. It's nice. I then did a test with white, which is still sticky, and that's 3 days old. Red, still sticky. Mangrove has dried, which is fine. And the grey is still a bit sticky. So, having done all that, and two choices only, and I didn't like either of them. So what I've done is I painted the whole thing white with Taminium paints. The Taminium flat white, it just rubs on and it does well. Now I've got to put it all back together. Now one of the problems was the buckles that came with it were these shiny type metal things, which I didn't like, and I tried doing a few things to get them less shiny, sandpaper, fur tan, which is a fish-based oil product which is spray on rust and it turns it from rust into some sort of black metal. Didn't work. So then I remembered a simple thing. I put them all on this bit of metal, lit my wood fire and chucked them in. And I don't know whether it was a chemical reaction or the chrome burnt off or they're just covered in soot, but they're nice and worn and looking wonderful now. So all I have to do is put this back together. Okay guys, yet more last minute stuff to finish this off. I've just done a stencil, EFI Imperial Expeditionary Force 19th Battalion, and I'm just dabbing the white on, so anything that leaks under the stencil is going to be white on the already white strap. And that is good in theory, but of course this strap has got like a fake animal skin sort of pattern to it, so some is going to leak over, so I'm going to have to worry about weathering later. But now that that's white, I will go over that either with dark grey or probably black, and then we can pull a stencil off. But what I have to do, of course, is to mask the rest of it, because I'm going to spray the black. And what I've got here is my steel rule, which is pushing down against the edge of the belt to keep it in a straight line when I put the stencil down. So I'll have to cover that over because I don't want that to get covered with spray paint. I've got my little belt. I'm taking off the masking. It's upside down. That's all right. Imperial Expeditionary Force 19th Battalion. Look at that. Imperial Expeditionary Force 19th Battalion. Right guys, voiceover time. Here I am putting a stencil on the dial on the scope just so I can put some registration marks on it, make it look a bit more techy. So I've put the stencil around the dial and then I proceed to paint the stencil the same colour as the dial, which is black. So the usual trick, so no paint leaks under. So that was done with the aid of my gigantic eye, because I can't see a thing these days. Then a little bit of it was cut off and I used it as a stencil for the marks on the actual body. And whereas the dial was painted black, this was painted white because the body's white. This is just to stop paint leaking under the stencil. Once they were dry, I painted white onto the dial, and then I painted red onto the body, just as mostly just to get a bit of red on the body, on the scope, give it some colour. And once the paint was dry, the stencils were pulled off. There was a little bit of touch up to do, but not much. And I think it came out looking pretty good. Another thing I'm just dealing with, aside from all the loose frayed bits of cotton coming off this material, is actually giving us a bit of contrast. And I just tried something quickly and it seemed to work. Got an original piece of the material, and I got some yellow chalk here. Rubbed it all over that, and rubbed it all over that. It just seems to work reasonably well. It just transfers the chalk. The black material takes on a bit of depth. You can see the different layers, and just helps it stand out. It's not just a solid lump of black material that you can't really see much in. And when I'm done this, I'll just probably spray this with some clear flat, and that will help to protect it somewhat. I'm not really worried about the chalk wearing off. I actually want it to get dirty so it looks realistic. Finally, up to the fun part. We're going to put the smoke and soot on this thing. So what I've got is my little turntable I made in one of my brain shrieks on the ground here, so I can just spin this around. Makes it easy to get all sides as I work, and I'll be working vertically to get the streaks going down it in certain areas. So what I've done first, I finish off the sling, just a bit of paint. Now this, the easiest way to do it, I just rubbed it with Tamiya white, then put some tape across here and did it with the Tamiya red. So that got the paint to stick, but I couldn't use my Tamiya black wash because the whole thing would just go dissolve to grey because of the solvent. So I did the next best thing. I got my graphite stick out, sanded a bit of graphite and just rubbed it in, and then I sprayed it with that lethal Tamiya flat clear. I said I'd never use again, but I did it outside with the respirator on. It's only a little bit, and you rub your hand on it and none of the graphite comes off, so I'm pretty happy. That works fine. So first thing I'm going to do is, this looks black but it's actually light brown. It's the brown smoke that is always present when weapons are fired, and I'm going to do that first, and depending on how that comes out, I'm going to then go on to my next step, which I'm not sure which one it is. Right, g'day guys, Andy Work here. Finally finished, we're up for the test fire. So I'll just bring it close so you can hear. So pull the trigger back halfway, flywheel start, conveyor starts. Here you go. So a 6-round magazine with a little shroud I made goes in there. Let's fire some darts. Oh, I think that was all 6 of them. Amazing what a fully charged battery can do, isn't it? My M8013E3 plasma accelerator. As usual, there'll be some beauty shots at the end of the video, and also I'm coming up on 400 subscribers. When I get to 500, I'm going to have another competition, do a blaster for somebody, cosmetic mod. One thing, if you do subscribe, you apparently have to make it public, or not make yourself private, because if you make yourself private, I can't see you, so I can't add your name to the subscription list for the draw. So that's just the way YouTube works. So thanks for joining me on this trip. Thank you for everybody who has subscribed and likes my stuff. Nice little thrill. Yeah, other than that, see you next time. Be safe, be happy.